Regret does not come from bad outcomes. It comes from decisions made without principles. Most people believe regret means they chose the wrong option. But if that were true, why do some people choose correctly and still feel regret years later? This is not a video about decision hacks. It is not about choosing faster or choosing smarter. It is about the moment you quietly betray yourself while making a decision. Kant believed regret is not emotional, it is structural, and it is avoidable. To understand why, we need to see how Kant thought about choice. Most people decide emotionally, then they justify intellectually. The decision is made first by fear, by desire, or by the need for relief. Only afterward does the mind step in to explain why the choice was reasonable. This is why regret feels strange. It does not always come from failure. It often comes after success. Because deep down, you know the decision was not guided by a standard. It was guided by pressure. Regret is not about the result. It is about knowing you abandoned your own internal rule. People think regret comes from indecision, or from lacking information, or from choosing too slowly. Kant believed none of these were the real problem. The real problem is deciding without a principle that you could respect later. When emotion leads and reason only cleans up afterward, the mind remembers, and it remembers clearly. This is exactly what Kant tried to eliminate. Kant did not trust emotions to guide life-altering decisions, not because emotions are bad, but because they are unstable. Feelings change, situations change, pressure changes. Principles must not. For Kant, a decision is not defined by how it feels in the moment. It is defined by whether you can stand by it when the feeling disappears. Emotion answers one question: what do I want right now? Principle answers a different one: what rule can I live with, even when this is hard? This is the core of Kant's framework. A decision guided by emotion depends on circumstances. A decision guided by principle remains intact even when circumstances turn against you. This is why Kant believed freedom is not choosing whatever feels right. Freedom is choosing according to a rule you respect enough to obey tomorrow. A decision without a principle is not freedom. It is a gamble disguised as choice. And this becomes very clear when we look at real-life situations. Most people quit jobs to escape discomfort, not to honor values. The emotional logic sounds reasonable. I am tired, I am underpaid, I feel stuck. These feelings are real, but Kant would say they are not enough. He would not ask, do you feel bad? He would ask something harder. Can you universalize the rule behind this decision? In other words, if everyone acted on the same reason, would the decision still be respectable? Consider two different principles. I do not trade dignity for security. This principle can guide a life. Now compare it to another. I leave when work feels uncomfortable. This rule collapses under pressure because discomfort is endless. Kant's framework forces clarity. Are you leaving to protect a value, or are you leaving to reduce pain? Here is the key insight. Regret does not come from leaving a job. Regret comes from knowing you left for relief instead of alignment. And the same structure appears again in relationships. Love decisions fail when they are negotiated with fear, not hatred, not cruelty, fear. Fear of being alone, fear of conflict, fear of hurting someone and being seen as the villain. So people stay. They compromise silently. They delay honestly. They endure without choosing. Kant would challenge this immediately. He would ask a single question. Would it be rational for everyone to stay in relationships that violate their principles just to avoid discomfort? If the answer is no, then staying is not moral. It is evasive. Here is the core insight. Staying without principle is not loyalty. It is avoidance disguised as kindness. Principle-based decisions are clean. They hurt clearly. They end honestly. They do not rot over time. And here's the line most people avoid. Ending a relationship by principle hurts once. Ending it by emotion hurts forever. Because the regret lingers. You know you did not choose truth. You chose relief. And this becomes brutal when money enters the picture.
Money decisions reveal who you are when pressure speaks. Not in theory, not in calm moments, but when the offer is real and the clock is ticking. This is where most people break. They tell themselves, just this once. Everyone does it. I will fix it later. But Kant would expose the flaw immediately. That logic assumes something dangerous. It assumes others will act ethically so you can benefit from being the exception. It assumes principles are for stable times and negotiable under pressure. But once a principle has exceptions, it is no longer a principle. It is a preference, and preferences bend. Here is the insight most people feel too late. Regret does not come from choosing less money. It comes from realizing your success required you to look away from yourself. Regret appears when achievement costs self-respect. Because money can be recovered, time can be rebuilt, but the moment you cross your own line, you remember it. Every future decision echoes that compromise. And this is why Kant insisted that principles must stand precisely when incentives attack them. So how do you actually decide without overthinking? Kant did not simplify life. He simplified decisions, not by making them easier, but by making them cleaner. When faced with a hard choice, he would not ask how it feels. He would ask how it stands. Here is the Kantian Decision Filter. 3 steps, no shortcuts. Step 1. Name the principle. Do not ask what you want. Ask, what rule am I actually following if I choose this? Not the story, not the justification, the rule. If you cannot state it clearly, you are not deciding, you are reacting. Step 2. Universalize it. Now test the rule. Would the world still function if everyone acted this way? Not just when convenient, but always. If the answer is no, you already know the cost. A rule that collapses when shared was never rational to begin with. Step 3. Check self-respect. Remove the outcome. Imagine this decision fails, publicly, completely. Can you still respect yourself for how you chose? If the answer is yes, regret has no place to grow. This is the core insight Kant left behind. Principles protect you from regret, even when results disappoint. Because failure with integrity is survivable. Success without it is not. And this leads to Kant's quiet promise. Kant did not promise perfect outcomes. He promised clean decisions. A life without regret is not a life without failure. It is a life where you can point to the moment you chose and say, I did not betray myself. Regret does not come from choosing wrong. It comes from choosing without a spine, from abandoning your own standard in exchange for relief, approval, or fear. Principles do not guarantee success. They guarantee self-respect. And that's the only kind of certainty a human being can carry. If you want philosophy that helps you choose without self-betrayal, subscribe. This is not about being right. It is about being able to live with yourself.